the only part left as far as sound deadening is these wheel wells. So we're going to go through and cut all the pieces and make sure we pack it all the way inside the walls on the back side of the wheel well, and then cover the entire thing on the outside. We'll actually put some Thinsulate around this as well inside of the factory cap that goes over. Then eventually that'll be boxed in with wood. We'll probably have batteries over top of this box later on, and then some water on the other side. It's borderline freezing outside right now, so we're going to warm this stuff up so it'll stick better. It's raining. We might actually get some snow later. It is also Christmas Eve, so. So these back doors, on ours we have these factory plastic panels. So basically I'm going to use these tools again to pry these off, and then we can do some sound deadening and insulation in the doors. There's a little bitty pointy one which helps you actually get in to the gap here, and then basically using what looks like a little crowbar to follow it up. And there's clips kind of all along the sides that you have to break loose. One that's actually like right here in the panel. You kind of have to get your hand into. So you can kind of see those clips. These tools have been really helpful. So far, I haven't actually, broke any of these things. Sometimes that can happen. You'll have to go to the auto parts store and actually get new clips. Thing's loud. Alright, so basically we're done with the sound deadening on the doors. We'll give them a shut later and see how solid they sound. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of the Thinsulate in, and then wrap up these back doors. And then we're kind of making our way around to get panels on. So we'll start putting these temporary walls back up. That way we can travel. And then obviously just a few more pieces left on the ceiling. We're still currently debating whether the fan will go in the back or more towards the front. It honestly comes down to measurements, and then what kind of solar panels we can fit on the roof, because we don't want them sticking out over the cab, because we want them to try to be as low and aerodynamic as possible. So I'm going to do some measurements and do a little bit of research and then figure out the correct placement where we want to put the fan based off of that. It's either two 100 watt panels or a single 270 watt panel. The 270 is going to take up a lot more space because it's like 64.5 inches long, which would stick up over the cab if the fan is in the more forward position. So we'll figure that out and put the rest of the insulation up there, and then we'll actually be able to say that we're done with that. Finish up the last door. Basically, there's two techniques that I've figured out as far as getting insulation into these as best you can, and this goes with many panels in the van. Is you can measure out small sections, cut them and glue them in individually. The second option is measure the entire panel, ignoring things like brackets and how they're spaced up, and cut it to size. And then when you come in, you can just take a pair of scissors or decent shears and basically divide out those sections, or if you can manage to stuff a large enough piece in, just slice out areas where the brackets are. That way you have minimal amount of waste as far as insulation goes, and you have the most potential coverage. In many of these cases, I have the insulation going all the way up into the panel to this top seam. In this door, because there's mechanisms in here that are actually exposed, there is a small piece in here where there isn't insulation on the actual door skin. That basically allows the stuff to work properly without ever having to worry about maybe getting caught on insulation. And the same goes for up here. But in this case, there's actually a large bracket in there you have to cut around. And then behind the Thinsulate is some basically butyl based kind of foil wrapped sound deadening. So I'll reattach the speaker and then probably seal these back up. There's also the idea, which I won't do today because it's so cold, is to cover all of these holes with the sound deadening butyl, which should help improve like audio quality. But considering that these are still the factory cardboard speakers, I'm not going to concern myself with that too much. Later down the road, we may swap these out for some better units, and then once we have the panel off, we can cover all those up and really make this door solid and improve the audio quality. But for now, I'm just going to go ahead and call this done, put these all back together, and move on. So I'm going to glue some insulation to the ceiling. Alright, so this is the last piece of insulation. We'll basically call it done for now and move on to something else. Hey, good morning. It's 27 out. We're going to tackle a van today and finish up some insulation. Basically the last section that's left is the door, so we're going to put the sound deadening in and then put the Thinsulate in the door as best we can and get around all the mechanisms, and then we should be able to reseal it back up with this plastic, as the rubber sealant is still pretty tacky. Alright, so we got the door pretty much done. We're going to seal it back up and move on. This is quite the time-consuming process, though. Lots of cuts. There's tons of brackets in this door, and all these cables and electronics. So it was kind of precarious around some of the stuff to try to make sure we didn't get glue on things like springs and the mechanisms and all that. This took much longer than just like a flat wall would, so just be aware of that. So we got a piece of reflectix cut behind here. Should have showed that before I put the panel on. But basically it's just the exact same template as this plastic temporary wall. So it's just kind of an extra barrier, and we'll use it as kind of vapor barrier throughout the van. And then we're going to temporarily put this wall and some of these panels back up just to protect the insulation so that we can actually take this on a trip pretty soon.